Hello everybody, this is Make It Better, and today we're doing What If Deku Had a Transfer Quirk Part 11. Sorry for the break, I pretty much went on vacation and I'm not I'm not gonna tell you about what happened, but pretty much since all this stuff is happening, I pretty much just stayed home and built on other stuff. But it gave me some time to think of how this next story is gonna go to. So let's get into it. As they finish their as Deku and everybody in Class 1A finished their stuff, finished the test, they went off. I'm not gonna do the movies. I can't do it. I'm sorry for if any of you want to hear that, but I'm not gonna do it. I have seen it, but I need to watch it a little bit more. Um, this and some of them called in. Wow, I actually skipped that part. Sorry, but a few of them in class were pretty much saying, "How about everybody just go to the mall and as a group activity as a class?" And most of them said yes. Some of them said no. The ones that said no is same thing in canon. The ones that said yes, same thing in canon. So everybody is meeting up. Deku actually comes in all stylist, kind of like he was gonna go for a date, and some of the girls are there still too, and they're kind of giving him a compliment on saying, "Oh, you look so nice," and stuff like that. And a few minutes pass, and here comes Jiro. And so he looks at Jiro, stares a bit, and when she starts snapping, Luca said, "Oh, sorry, I just never saw you." Yeah, I mean, like, you look so pretty today. And she started blushing and will turn away and pretty much say, "Okay, then," and try control the situation. And said, "So, what are you going to get for the training camp?" And Deku said, "Well, I'm going to get more glass jars. I know something gonna happen, and I need to train my quirk. So, yeah, I'm gonna go to that home improvement store that's right next to that music store." And Jiro said, "Oh, I know the place. Like to come?" And Deku said, "Yeah, sure." Everybody is doing their same thing, and so, and as they go to the store, Jiro pretty much picks out some music, just for the trip, of course. And Deku actually sees her picking out some music that she likes. I can't really think of any rock, so yeah, rock or hip hop, anything like that. And so Deku pretty much asks her, "So, how is it with your quirk?" And she said, "Like, what do you mean?" And Deku said, "Well, do you ever use the music as well to like make it stronger?" And she said, "No, I just listen to you. Listen, is there a way?" And she started thinking about it, and Deku's like telling her, "Well, you know, on certain musics, well, pretty much all of them, they affect your heart rate. And like you told me before, that your heart, that's the source of your the sound waves that come, right?" And she said, "Yeah." And so Deku said, "Well, if you listen to a certain music, like the ones that pretty much hype you up, dubstep, I believe. If you listen to that one, your heart rate will actually start pumping faster and faster, along with the rhythm, as you do something like because that's what music does. It affects your heart rate, and that's why it makes it so slow, or more energized." And so she's thinking about this, and notice start thinking how she will put this together. And she pretty much said, "Well, thank you, Deku, for helping me with this one. I didn't know that until now. Thank you." And Lucas said, "Well, no problem. I gotta go and get the stuff." And so he left and she's staying there again and some more music. This time, some more hype beat and for her training. And she's still doing that. And so Deku pretty much went in, and this time he actually buys six regular size jugs. They're or glass that have those sealed in twist. I can't that their top actually pop off. Not sure if that's the right word, but oh well. He gets six of those, and a giant one, kind of like a gallon size. The other the other six are pints. The big one is a gallon, and since he goes to the store almost a lot because their glass is pretty much the strongest and best for him. He pretty much asked the guy if he is alright if he can just send it to his home address as well. And the guy said, yeah, just for extra pay. And Exuk said, yeah, that's good. And so he just pretty much texts Jiro that I'll be waiting in the food court. And yeah, that goes on. A few minutes pass, and he felt something grab onto his neck. And this is Shuraki. I can't say his name, but I finally got it right. But really, he started talking to him. And Zuko knows that it can't really help. And so he started talking to him, but more calmly. And Shiraki is asking why Stain is so popular. And Zuko pretty much like turned to him and said, well, Shiraki. And Shiragi almost like put the last finger in. And Zuko said, well, Stain had purpose. Your purpose was to kill All Might, and that's it. And he's getting a little more brave and trying and closer. And Zuko pretty much said, I don't think you have the guts to do it. And Shiraki said, you really think so? And so Shiraki actually put down the finger. And Deku said, oh, you should have never done that. And so he grabbed his arm and said, reverse. And so I just thought of this about yesterday. So when he does this, because he never really wants to do it to anybody, but he knows he can. So when it said reversed, Shiraki on his neck, it started to crack. And nothing is going on Zuko's neck, on his neck. And he's still holding on. And Deku said, better let go or it will affect you worse. And Shiraki said, fine, I'll let go. And Zuko is still holding onto his arm, and this time, both of his arms. Twisted. How was it? Shiraki was holding him with his right hand. And so Deku used his right hand and grabbed it. And then he grabbed his left hand with his left hand and grabbed it as well. And right now it's crossed. So he put his arm straightened so it's crossed on Shiraki. So he can't get away. And Shiraki is kind of yelling and saying, villain. And everybody's looking around and see that it's Deku from the sports festival. And Deku said, calm down, everybody. Call the police. It's a villain attack. And everybody started freaking out and running. And some people are getting the police, and some pro heroes are coming by. And at this point, the portal guy pretty much came in and took him away. And Zuko was trying to hold him on, but something came out with some blue flames and made him to pretty much make him let go. And and everybody got away, and Zuko pretty much shaking his hands, kind of like it was wet, quickly. For him, fire is one of the strong. He's good with orange, but with blue fire, it lasts a little long. So he still feels the pain, even though it's completely healed. And everybody's going on freaking out. Jiro is freaking out and seeing if he's okay. And Deku said, it's fine. See, I'm healed. but I think I know why he's. Yeah, he's a little mad at me. So the next. Oh my gosh, what's going on? So anyway, the days ended, and after Zuko got pretty much told his report to the policeman, Jiro was still there waiting for him, and so they meet up, and Jiro pretty much said, "Well, since I guess it's the perfect time," and Zuko said, "For what? You want to go on another date?" And she said, "No, it's a little too late. Is it right if I meet your mother?" And Zuko said, "Sure, let's go." And she was gonna ask what's that pause for, and Zook said, "You'll figure it out." And so he pretty much texts his mom and then that he's gonna bring someone over, and actually get ready. Zuko's dad, he's sometimes, well, he chooses what he wants to get off now since he's getting up higher in the rankings. So, dang. As they're getting in, Izuku pretty much knocked on the door, and Isashi, he opens the door and said, "Well, hello. So this is your new girlfriend?" And he's trying to say this to embarrass Zuko, but Zuko said, "Yeah, she's actually my girlfriend." And she's kind of like blushing, but trying to be calm about it and say, "Well, hello, Mr. Midoriya. I'm Zuko's girlfriend. My name is Jiro. I don't know her last name, or that's her last name. I don't know." So they just walk in, and she looks at Inko. Did I make? Did I have them meet? Yes, I did. Did I? Oh, man, my memories are getting worse. So Inko sees her pretty much. Yeah, I did. Man, I didn't. Man, I didn't think of this. So they're catching up at this point, and Zuko pretty much looked at them, and they're just catching up. And Zuko sees that Inko is actually bringing out the book again, and Zuko pretty much snatched it and said, "Nope, nope, I'm not letting you do it this time." And so he put it up and locked it in the same spot, and he's hiding it, making sure no one. And Inko and the Sashi pretty much knows what it was, trying to be so brave about with his girlfriend. And Jiro is getting a little pouty. She wants to see more of his baby pictures. And Zuko said, "No, I haven't seen yours, so you are not seeing any more of mine." And she kind of, fine. And so they see his parents see this, and they're just enjoying their son having a little more fun with it. So they have dinner, and yeah, that would be good for that part. I have After dinner, they are more talking about everything, and Jules pretty much asks, "So what did you buy over at the other store?" And Zook said, "Well, I bought some jars, like for my quirk and how to store them." And so she said, "Are you going to bring them to the retreat or the forest camp?" And Zook said, "Yeah, I need them for training. I don't hold all of my emotions or yeah." And Inko and Sashi pretty much look at him and said, "So, what dates and how long will it be?" And Zuko said, pointing out the dates and how long it will be. And they said, "Okay, that's good. Oh, remember, we have to make sure this spot. Make sure we have to tell the school you are off on this day." And Zuko said, "Of course, I'll make sure that everybody knows." And Joe was pretty much asking what you guys talking about, and Zuko pretty much said, Um, I don't want to talk about it. That one's more. Nope. I don't want to talk about it. And she's kind of like pushing him on, and Luke said, "Trust me, I do not want anybody to know what happens on that day." And so she asked, "Is it something important? Is it something um, about your family?" And Luke said, "No, it's something about my quirk, and that's it, no more." And she said, "Okay, okay." And so she pretty much, and Zuko pretty much walked out, and Joe actually followed him to his room. And well, no, Zuko started going to his room, and Inko pretty much pushed Juro to his room, and she said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And she said, and Inko pretty much said, "It's fine. I trust you. Yeah, I trust him too. I think this time you learn." And so she pretty much goes in and opens the door, and then immediately look away, because Deku was actually changing. He was taking off his shirt, and his about his shirt was off, and he was about to take off his shorts, his pants. And Izuku heard the door slam and said, "What was that?" And Jiro said, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." And Zuko and pretty much like rushed and put on some shorts and t-shirt, and then opened the door and said, "Okay, why?" And she Jiro's pretty much said, "Well, your mother." And he pretty much said, "Mom," and then they hear in the background both of them laughing. And so Zuko pretty much leave the door open and said, "Okay, you can come in." And so Jiro walks in and see some All Might figures on one wall, and then the other wall has the jars. And this time it's like a bookshelf from the bottom to top filled with a bunch of emotions. All of them have different colors. Eye level, it's just that one color in each jar. And then lower, they're mixed with two. The second to last is three. The last one is empty, but on the very top are the ones that are mixed into each other, but with one. They have like labels on which emotion. So she's looking at them, and she pretty much said they look so pretty, especially this red and orange one. And Zuko said, "Yeah, but I recommend not touching it. It's sometimes leak out." And she said, "What do you mean by leak out?" And Zuko said, "You see that blue one that's pretty much completely full? It's kind of like water." And she said, "Yeah." And Zuko said, "See how it's like dripping? That's not water. That's the emotion, but purely that very emotion." And so she said, "Wait, this one?" And when she pointed at it, she accidentally touched it. And Zuko pretty much said, "No, no!" All freaking out. And Jiro pretty much like curled up and started crying hard. Like her tears, she started crying extremely hard. And all of these jugs are a gallon full. Yes, a gallon full, pressured enough where it actually become a form of a solid liquid. Usually they're just gas, but they turn into solid liquid depending on how strong the emotion is. And so Zuko pretty much, he can't take in that that pure emotion far too fast enough. And so as he took away as much as he can, and Jiro is kind of like sniffing, and pretty much said, "I never cried that hard before." And Lucas said, "Yeah, that's why they're almost at the top shelf, for no one to actually affect them." Like, remember like the last time we came to our room, to my house, the study station? And she said, "Yeah." He pretty much said, "I'm so lucky that he actually chose that jar instead of that blue one, because that one okay, let me show you. Look at it. And she actually stepped back and said, I don't want to touch it. And Zuko said, no, it's okay. And Zuko pretty much hold one of the jars and like twist it side to side, and it looked like sand. And then he picked up another one, and it looked like water. And then he picked up one, and he flipped it over, and it didn't do anything. It was so solid, it did not even move. And he flipped it back up. And those three were hope, happy, and sadness. And then some of the other ones are somewhat there, but not far enough. And she said, so do you ever stop collecting? And Zuko said, no. If I can help, I can help. And I'll put them in here. And you know how I got those jars? She said, yeah. And Zuko said, well, here, I'll put them in each one. And since they're in solid form, they're so much pure, I had to make sure they're sealed tightly. Since I don't know how long, well, I know how long, but don't know how strong they're gonna make me train. So he's just showing her how he takes out the emotions and putting them in. So it's pretty much like he's pouring it in, but anything that's like spilling out, he pull it from with his hand, kind of swirl it and make it go back down. So it's kind of like sand on your dry skin. Yeah, dry because wet is not gonna work. Dry on your palm, and slowly just falls off right into the jar. And so he filled it up halfway, just for safekeeping. So he does that to the happy, for the green, the blue, the red, the yellow, and the white. No, take out the yellow. Put down the white and gray. Yeah, I'll put those in. And then Zuko pretty much get the other jug, and this one is on the pretty much under his bed. And Jiro said, "What are you doing?" And Luke said, "Well, this one is more special. If this thing ever leak out, I had to be prepared to take care of it. And it's the black one." And Jiro said, "So that one is what was it?" And Luke said, "It's the one that's very, very bad. I keep it close to me, but it's." And Deku said, "Well, this one's pretty heavy. This one has been solid so long. I'm not sure how I'm gonna take it out." And so he asked Jiro if you can like step out of the room. You can leave the door open, just step out of the room. And Zuko said, "Okay, are you ready?" And she said, "Ready for what?" And he opens it, and his whole room turns completely black. Even the light blacked out completely, and she can't even see anything. And she was about to reach in, and Zuko said, "Don't do it." And she said, "Why?" And she was getting closer, and Lucas pretty much stood up and like pushed her hand out of the room. And Lucas said, "If you touch this one, it's so much worse than the blue one. Please don't." And she said, "Okay, I won't." And Lucas said, "Okay, thank you." And you will see how I put this one back in. And so it kind of looked like him getting into the pearl, like in how Bakugo was, but pure black. So she wasn't able to see even an inch in front of it. And so Zuko pretty much did this because he can work in at the dark because he sees the emotions, and he can see everything else that has somewhat a life, living life. So he can feel everything is. And so Zuko pretty much get the other jar that he was going to take for the thing, and put in half. Make sure it's half, and pretty much make it kind of like a crunch sound, crushing it down. And Jiro's kind of like holding her one of her ears and saying, "What is that crunching from?" And Zuko said, "That is the darkness. That is the black that I'm crushing, making sure it at the pure form it will not leak out." And so he's crushing it and make sure it stay in a halfway point. on the gallon one. And so he put the rest in back in, and then put it back in, and Joe see the room turning, getting the black mist just getting smaller and smaller, and Zuko's like crushing it in his hand and putting it in the jar, sealing it tight and putting it under his bed. Well, he's putting it into a box, locking it, and putting it under his bed. And Joe said, "Is it alright if I come in?" And Zuko said, "Yeah, it's fine." And so she sees the six, is the five small jugs and one big one on top. And Zuko said, "See, that's gonna be my training regimen for the next 2 weeks." And so she pretty much said, "Well, thank you for showing me this." And Zuko said, "It's alright." And since she actually looked at the time and said, "I'm late." And Zuko pretty much said, "Yeah, I was going to tell you, but you start, touch the other one." And so he actually, being a nice boyfriend that he is, will actually take a Jiro to her house, all the way, not even at the bus station, but all the way. And Leku said, "Well, I'll see you over at the school." And she said, "Yeah." And as she was like about to walk, Zuko started to turn around and look, walking away. Joe pretty much pulled him in, and this time kissed him in the mouth, and was holding it for a few seconds. Oh, dang. Sorry, I'm going to charge my phone. It's dead. It's at 5%. As this kiss was going on, Joe's dad pretty much opened the door and said, and just stood there, just waiting. And actually, back up and said, "Well, and then bye," and start to walk away. And she sees her dad, and so she really turning red at this point, covering her face and like moving in, going into her house and trying to leave. And Zuko pretty much said, "Well, hello, sir," and he said, "I approve." And Zuko kind of like got a very shocked look, and he just closed the door. And Zuko said, and Zuko pretty much said, "Was not expecting that, but okay," and started walking away. But he's like really happy that he got a kiss from her, and started walking away. This time he actually skipped the bus station and started walking all the way to his house, and all in a happy mood. And with his happy mood, like his bloodlust, it start emitting the pink and green auras all around him. It's kind of showing, but only people with like that's not fully colorblind. So some people can see it, but some people can't. Some of them are voting it, but when the people did came into it, they just feel so much happier and like hug themselves, pretty much hug themselves, and just like start walking, smiling. And some people is seeing this, and Zuko is just being just walking down into it, in his house. Dang, 30 minutes. I can keep going. I was planning to go further. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Here we go. Yeah, got it. So, as they're going into school, everybody's getting ready to go to into the bus, and Momo pretty much was right there, telling everybody to come in and be in an orderly line, and some of them are not listening, pretty much the stupid ones, and so Zuko pretty much stomped down on the floor, and all the people that didn't listen feel a quick chill up their back, freeze, and then Zuko stop again and let go. And so they turn around and they look, and Zuko said, and pretty much pointed to the bus. And so they immediately go. And some of them are just are thinking that he's pretty good at being the bossy one. And Momo pretty much said, well, thank you, Deku, Izuku. And Deku said, it's no problem. As always, you're the president, I'm the meaner one. And he smiles away and start walking back up in there. And Aizawa pretty much tell everybody to sit where you like to sit, since it's going to be a long ride. And usually it's going to be only for class 1A, but this time it's going to be class 1A and class 1B. I'm going to do something a little different. So everybody's just right there enjoying the ride. Zuko is like sitting there with a blank stare, kind of like he's sleeping, but his eyes are open. And Jiro is like confused and trying to wave her hand on him, and nothing. So she actually pushed him, and it made him wake up and said, "What?" And she pretty much asked, were you sleeping, or what were you doing?" And Zuko said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." and Zuko pretty much said, "Well, I was sleeping. He has a reason why, but Jiro said, "And you sleep with your eyes open?" And Deku said, "Yeah, you can say I've been trying to learn that one just to freak people out." And Jiro said, "Well, you were freaking out the whole everybody in the bus." And in the background, Amina, Denki, Bakugo, Momo, they were like sitting there making bets, seeing how long he can keep his eyes open while sleeping. And that Bakugo was saying pretty much was betting a lot longer. And they were kind of like pissed that none of them were right, because Amina thought that he was thinking very strong, very focused. Denki was thinking, no, he's sleeping. Look at him, he's sleeping. Uraraka was, what was she? She just telling them not to bet. That's kind of rude. And then Bakugo came in and said, "No, he's sleeping. I bet he's gonna last the whole time." And then when Jiro moved it, the bets are all off because they didn't expect that. And so everybody's just sitting there enjoying it, and then just adjusting. Oh. And so that's their little bus trip. A few hours passed by. Not sure if it was like an hour or a few more hours. So I'll say a few more hours. And so everybody getting out. They stop at the spot. Everybody's getting out, stretching their legs. Zuko pretty much twists his back. Oh, they standing on that. Right and left and popping it. Just pretty much all of that. And see a limousine. Pretty much a black car that's long. Yeah. And he sees the Pussycats, and they're all pretty much announcing their names, and everybody's like getting excited. And Zuko pretty much looked at them and said, "Oh, hey, Pixie Bomb, how you guys been doing?" And he walks up to all of them and shake their hands, all formally, and start using their real names. And Zuko was about to ask about Koa, but Aizawa pretty much stopped him and pretty much told everybody what's going on, and everybody started to run at this point, and then the landslide happens. So all in class 1A is down there, and then the bus, and then I'm not sure who was it, but the the girl that had the earthquake pretty much reformed the cliff, and well, Aizawa was just there, just telling everybody to fight to get to the camp, and so they did. And a few minutes passed by, Class 1B came in, and the same thing happens to them. It was two. Mm-hmm. I almost forgot who I made them a couple with. So the same thing happens, and they were forced to do it as well, because that seems unfair that only class 1 had to do it. So I did class 1B. So class 1A, that little skit with Manila going on, it happened. This time he did repeat it himself. In the show it implied, but then we show it. I'm saying now he did. And Zuko pretty much pushed him off to a little pond of sorts. And Zuko pretty much said, "You can thank me later." And Manila was going to say something, but he realized that he peed himself and see that there's a puddle there. And it's the blue puddle, the one that's rainwater. And so he's pretty much unthankful that Zuko's very nice. And should have listened to him about the other thing. And so, as everybody's fighting, Zuko can't really use his emotions since these are emotionless monsters. So he starts giving everybody kind of like a boost of sorts, a mental boost, pretty much, of hope and happiness with some anger, just to get them more fired up. And everybody's getting more excited and start fighting even harder. And Deku pretty much are directing everybody how to fight grouping everybody to a person that perfect applies. And then he turned to Bakugo and said, "Okay, here." And he put in a lot of anger into him, and started healing him as well, and said, "Here, I'll give it to you, but make sure you only attack the monsters." And Bakugo said, and he's nodding, and he's starting feeling anger, and he's back. He's completely like in his canon self, more anger, but towards the monsters. And he pretty much said, pretty much making an explosion towards it, saying "die" all the way to them, and start affecting everybody. So everybody's getting going fast by it. And so they actually finished around an hour earlier. And the Pussycats are like getting out or getting ready to wait a little longer. And they see them and said, "Well, you were in faster than we expected, especially you, Midoriya." And Koda, he heard Midoriya, and so he started looking around and see Midoriya. And Midoriya is a little tired, but he sees him and said, "Hey, Koda," and he's like running up to him and giving him a hug. He squat down, giving him a hug, and pretty much asking, "Is he okay?" And Koda is kind of saying yes and no. And then Deku said, "It's fine, it's fine. Here we go. Are you ready?" And he said yes, and Deku said, 3, 2, 1. And he then Zuko pretty much gave out a happier aura around him and Koda, and then a little about a yard away, just to give it a better. And Pixie Bob pretty much can't get enough of it. He just stepped in, he or she, I really don't care, pretty much stepped in just a bit, and it was enough for him for the rest of his day. He felt so happy. He told everybody to get in and wash up. At this time, Jiro and the rest of the girls are seeing how fatherly he is acting like. And some of the girls look at you, look, and and as Jiro looked at how Deku was acting around Akoya, Mina came up and said, "See how good he is with with kids. He might be the best father yet." And she's trying to make Jiro blush, and it works. She's blushing hard, and she's thinking a little bit more, and she's blushing still a little bit more, and start running and going and get eat the food. I think this is the only time they actually the pussycat makes the food for them, and so everybody's doing that, eating food, and she's telling everybody that this is the only time they're ever going to make food for you on this training camp. So enjoy it, and so yeah. Oh dang, my tooth. Okay, so let's see. I need to get this order right. So actually, I'm not sure if I'm right, but I'll go with it anyway. And here comes the bath scene. The girls are doing the same. The guys are doing the same. And the guys see how Deku's back is. It seems like they're scars, but they can't tell. It's like it's almost fading away. And they're asking, so how long did you have those scars for? And Deku says, what? Scars? And they say, what, you don't know about them? And Baku said, hey Deku, is it time or is it getting close? And Deku said, no, it shouldn't be. It should be a few more weeks. And Baku said, well, it looked like it's starting up. And so Deku said, okay. It's all fine. It's good. It happens. And Deku pretty much tell them that, yeah, it's something that affects my quirk. Affects around this time. It's all good. I don't feel the pain. And so they're all good. And Deku feel a disturbance in the force. Yes, I want to use that. And so he looks at Mineta, and and Zuko pretty much snapped, and he started learning how to do it with his hands for smaller areas. So he snapped, kind of like echolocation, gets Mineta, and Mineta started feeling a chill, even though he's in a hot spring. And he starts looking around, and then look at Deku, and Deku said, "Are you ready?" And Mineta was saying, if I'm gonna die looking it. And so he started climbing, and Zuko pretty much is just standing there waiting. And the girls are hearing this, and Jiro pretty much was ready to hit Mineta, and Deku pretty much tell her, hey, stop, no, don't do it. You're gonna hit Koya. And it's right at that point, Koya got up there and blocked the view and hit him down, made him fall. Zuko pretty much moved, and he fell. And Deku pretty much said, well, thank you, Koda. And Koda said, you're welcome, big bro. And Zuko said, well, looky here. Seems like you did not learn your lesson. So what should I do with you? And the girls say, and Jiro pretty much saying, what are you going to do? No. And Zuko pretty much knocked on their side and said, well, girls, as you already know, Mineta was trying to peek. And they all said, yes. And Deku said, well, I have two choices for you to have his punishment. One, you all get to beat on him. And most of them are getting ready with their quirks. And Zuko said, or I can give him either the blue or the black. Your choice. And they're asking, what was the black one again? And Joe was actually going to ask, wait, is it going to be the solid or gas form? And Zuko said solid. And she's thinking about it. And she tell the girls, "I'm let's do the black one." And and she said, "Zuko, how much is not too much?" And Zuko said, "Well, I have a galleon. I can say, and for his small size, I say about 3 shot sizes." And Jill said, "Okay, do 3 right in front of us, right when all this is done." And Zuko said, "Okay." So he tied up Manila, put him in. He have made so all the everything after all the guys got ready and all the girls finished with their stuff. They're just all standing there, well, sitting there, and Manila is like sitting there and trying to convince them not to do anything to him, and well, because all that happened when he got hit on the floor, he actually blacked out. So he woke up, got dressed, and Zuko pretty much said, you're coming with me." And he ties up Manila kind of like a hog tie. Both his feet and his arms are tied to the chair. He cannot get out. And Deku is just standing there. And some of the guys are standing there too because they know they want to do it, but they want to see what's going on. And Bakugo came by, bringing the jugs, well, the gallon, and bringing a shot glass. Aizawa pretty much walked by and seeing that Manila is locked up, the girls are sitting down, and Deku is like standing right by Manila. And he said, "Just make sure you don't pass curfew," and start walking away. And so Deku said, "Of course, sir," and won't be long. So Deku pretty much tell the girls that about his quirk and saying that, as you all know, my quirk is emotions. And they all said yes. And Zuko said, "Well, this jug, as you can see on my right," and they look, and it's all black. And Zuko said, "This one is called depression. It's the worst feeling you can ever have. Just a small drop can affect you for an hour." And they said, "Okay." And Deku said, "Well, this is something else that it does to it, but I never really told you. Right now, gas is the weakest form. When it turns liquid, and they're thinking liquid, and when it turns liquid, that small drop becomes almost a day worth of depression in 1 second. So you feel every single pain in that one day." And they're getting kind of opening widening their eyes. And Zuko said, "And solid, you pretty much wish you were dead." And they see this, and Manella's hearing all this and pretty much praying, asking the girls to please let him go. He will do anything for not to get that. And Zuko's pretty much shutting his mouth. Well, Bakugo got a rope and covered his mouth and tied up nice and tight. And so he's squirming all around. And Deku pretty much looked at the girls and said, "Are you sure you want a shot glass? Because after this, I'm not sure if he's gonna come back or..." And all the girls said, "Yes." And Deku said, okay. And so he actually prepared one already because he knew they would say yes, but he just going to show it that the guy. And he turned to the guys and said, if any of you are going to act like that, here is what really happens when I get serious." And so he go to Bakugo and said, "Would you like to do it, or would you like to do it?" And Jiro pretty much said, "Yes, I would like to do it." And so she said, "Do I give him a drink, or do I pour it on him?" And Deku said, "It's more painful to pour it on him." And so Bakugo stands back a few feet back because he knows how that feels, and she starts pouring it. The first drop, it seems like it was burning, and Deku said, "Well," and pretty much told them, "Well, enjoy the show for the next 3 hours." And all the guys are kind of freaking out. 3 hours of, and Manila is screaming, crying. It's like in sections, about